Do you think you know your family history completely? I mean, really sit with that for a second.
Oh, that's a tough question. Most of us just assume we do.
Right. You've got, the stories your parents told you, the carefully curated photo albums, the shared holiday memories. But what if the mother you loved, the woman you trusted to guide your entire life, what if she took a massive world-altering secret to her grave?
It completely destabilizes your sense of self. I mean, we basically construct our own identities on the bedrock of these family narratives.
Exactly.
So when you realize the foundation is just a total fabrication, you don't just question the past, you start questioning your own present reality.
And that psychological earthquake is exactly what we're unpacking today. For this deep dive, we're pulling from the opening chapters of the novel Wake Up Calls by Mariah Stewart.
Which is such a fantastic starting point. Readers of women's fiction know Stewart for her deeply authentic explorations of family dynamics.
Yeah, and those idyllic, yet really complicated small-town settings she writes, which serves as the perfect blueprint for our mission today.
Right, because we aren't just recounting a story here. We are going to examine the actual anatomy of a family secret.
We're looking at a multi-generational mystery hidden deep in the Maine woods. And we want to understand how the unresolved ghosts of the past have this uniquely destructive way of detonating the present.
Oh, detonating is the perfect word for it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at how Stewart structurally sets up this explosion. She doesn't just hand our protagonist, Kit Porterfield, a mystery in a vacuum.
No, she really doesn't. Kit is living a seemingly settled life in suburban Pennsylvania. She's got a 30-year marriage to her husband, Russ, 2 grown kids, a comfortable home.
But the author systematically strips away all of Kit's stability before the main plot even kicks in. It's just crisis after crisis.
Totally. First, Kit's sister, Beth, is battling cancer. And Kit keeps having this recurring, highly symbolic dream where their deceased mother, Barbara, is standing in a doorway.
Ah, yeah, that dream sequence.
Right. Barbara's actively trying to call the sick sister, Beth, away to the afterlife. But Beth keeps refusing.
That dream is just a brilliant narrative device. It establishes the lingering, almost suffocating authority of the mother right from page 1.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, Barbara might be dead, but psychologically she is still trying to orchestrate her daughter's movements. It really primes you for the realization that Barbara's control extends far beyond the grave.
And then the chaos just compounds. Kit's daughter, Abby, unexpectedly moves back home with her toddler.
Which is stressful enough on its own.
Right, but why does she move back? Because Abby just caught her up-and-coming playwright husband, Evan, kissing his stage manager.
Ugh, brutal.
So Kit is already emotionally drowning. Her anchors are completely gone.
Yeah.
And that is the exact moment the universe decides to drop the anvil. She gets a voicemail.
The inciting incident hits when her defenses are just completely down.
Yeah, she gets a call from an elderly, fast-talking attorney named Jeremy Banks from a town called Tolerance, Maine.
Such a great town name, by the way.
Seriously. Anyway, Banks informs Kit that her Aunt Maxine Meadows has died and left Kit a massive historical estate.
Which is a huge problem.
The glaring issue here is that Kit's mother, Barbara, swore up and down her entire life that she was an only child.
Right. The cognitive dissonance Kit experiences in this moment is just palpable. Like, how do you process inheriting a physical empire from a ghost?
You literally don't initially. Getting that call is like getting one of those spam calls about your extended car warranty.
Oh my gosh.
Which is exactly how Kit processes it at first, only to investigate and accidentally discover that you actually own the entire car factory. The sheer scale of the lie is paralyzing.
It's massive. And notice the stark contrast in how Kit and her husband Russ process this anomaly. This split reaction tells us everything we need to know about the fault lines in their marriage.
Oh, Russ is something else.
Yeah.
Kit is paralyzed by the psychological puzzle, right?
Okay.
She's spiraling into the why. Why did her mother erase a sibling?
Exactly, but Russ is entirely unbothered by the emotional betrayal. He is laser focused on the financial windfall.
Yeah, he's urging Kit to just call the lawyer back, sell the property unseen, and fund his early retirement. He practically brushes off her existential crisis.
He really does.
He tells her, what's the big deal? They're cabins. Like, you see one, you've seen them all.
Because to Russ, history is just a depreciating asset. She doesn't care. But Kit understands that she cannot simply liquidate a piece of a puzzle she doesn't comprehend.
No, her mother's lie has vaporized her understanding of her own lineage.
Right. So to resolve that dissonance, the narrative forces her out of her suburban comfort zone. She has to travel to the physical manifestation of that lie.
Which means heading north to Tolerance, Maine. And this is not the postcard-perfect Maine that out-of-staters imagine.
No, not at all.
She isn't greeted by white-spired churches and charming lobster boats. The drive is grueling. It's these isolated, gray, pothole-lined back roads where the wilderness feels almost oppressive.
It sets such a moody tone.
But then when she finally breaks through that barrier, Tolerance itself is this surprisingly quaint, perfectly preserved ecosystem. And the moment she arrives, the locals treat Kit like absolute royalty.
Well, because in an isolated geography like Tolerance, the currency isn't money, it's lineage. The Meadows family is the foundational lore of the area.
And Stewart populates this town with incredibly specific, colorful characters who immediately blur the lines of boundaries. We meet Mary Gale, the waitress at the local diner.
I love Mary Gale.
Right. And Ellie, the marine biology student who's running the inn. And most notably, Greta Crimmins, who was Aunt Maxine's best friend.
Oh, Greta's fascinating. She casually drops the detail that she let herself into the farmhouse after Maxine died and removed all the valuables for quote-unquote safekeeping.
Yeah, just packed them right up.
That casual admission highlights a central theme of small-town narratives, like who actually owns the past? Is it the legal heir who just drove into town, or the community that lived the history alongside the deceased?
It instantly puts Kit and you, the reader, on high alert. And the local flavor is just highly concentrated. Mary Gale serves Kit the state drink of Maine, something called Moxie.
Have you ever had Moxie?
I haven't. But if you've never had it, Kit's description is flawless. She says it tastes like root beer with an aggressive touch of black licorice.
Wow.
It's sharp, unique, and definitely an acquired taste. It's honestly a perfect metaphor for the town and for the property Kit just inherited.
Speaking of, let's delve into that property, the camp in the Meadows, because the setting here acts as an overarching character.
It really does.
It was founded before the Civil War by Kit's ancestors, John and Amity Meadows, and it evolved into what is historically known as a sporting camp.
I actually dug into the history of these Maine sporting camps because my modern brain immediately went to like summer camps with lanyards and soccer games.
Right. Totally different vibe.
Completely. Historically, during the 19th century industrial boom, wealthy city dwellers wanted to escape the soot and pollution. They wanted the rugged wilderness, the hunting, the pristine fishing, but they absolutely refused to sacrifice their creature comforts.
The classic glamping origin story.
Basically. So local landowners built these camps. You get the rustic cabin aesthetic, but you also get cooked meals, guided excursions, and a soft bed. It's essentially a highly curated, sanitized version of the wild.
And that curated history provides a brilliant thematic contrast to the messy, unfiltered family secrets buried on the grounds.
Exactly.
Kit's grandparents, Tom and Anna Lee, ran this camp at its absolute peak, catering to generations of wealthy repeat visitors on their private lake.
Okay, I do have to play devil's advocate for a second, though.
Go for it.
On paper, Russ's demand to just sell the place makes total logical sense. Kit is terrified of driving in the dark. She almost collides with a family of moose, and she's hundreds of miles from her kids who are in active crisis.
It is a lot to deal with.
Plus, Jeremy Banks' teenage grandson casually mentions he's been kicking sap poachers out of the empty cabins, which, for those who don't know, are people illegally tapping the maple trees on private land to steal the syrup.
Unbelievable.
It's a massive, unmanageable liability. Why shouldn't she just let the lawyer liquidate it?
You know, from a purely rational logistical standpoint, Russ is 100% correct. It's a nightmare of an asset.
Right.
But psychologically, liquidating the camp blindly means permanently incinerating the only physical evidence of Kit's true heritage. The camp is a structural time capsule.
That makes sense.
If she hands it over to a realtor, she loses the only tangible ledger of the trauma that fractured her mother's life.
And that physical ledger is waiting for her inside the silent, drafty farmhouse. When Kit finally enters, it's a deeply haunting scene. The furniture is draped in white sheets. It's perfectly preserved.
It's like stepping back in time.
Yeah. She finds her mother Barbie's childhood room, and it is exactly as it was left decades ago. Pink walls, a pristine collection of Nancy Drew books, clippings of Elvis and Buddy Holly pinned up.
It's chilling.
But the real revelation comes when she dusts off the 1950s high school yearbooks.
Yeah.
Kit discovers that the aunt she never knew existed wasn't just a part of the family. She was a local prodigy.
The yearbooks map out a staggering sibling dynamic. Maxine was academically gifted enough to skip 2 grades, placing her in high school immediately behind her older sister, Barbie.
And it wasn't just academics. Maxine was an undeniable star. She was a JV athlete as a freshman, competing on the exact same team as her older sister.
Talk about awkward.
She was a prom attendant. Jeremy Banks tells Kit that Maxine had this magnetic aura, that she simply lit up a room and everyone bent toward her.
If we analyze the mechanics of sibling rivalry, particularly in the mid-20th century, we see the foundation for a devastating fracture here.
Yeah, big time.
Barbie is the older sister, yet she is perpetually eclipsed. But the author shows us Barbie trying to reclaim her agency. She escapes the shadow. She goes off to the prestigious Catherine Gibbs Secretarial School in Boston.
Right, she wears the strict white gloves. She is building an independent, modern life in the city.
But the era's societal expectations snatch that independence right back. Barbie becomes engaged, and her future father-in-law, Wilbur Clark, decides that a young, single woman living in Boston is at risk of being compromised.
Ugh, the 1950s.
So he uses his leverage to force Barbie's parents to bring her back to tolerance. Her sole purpose becomes sitting at home waiting for her fiancé to finish college.
It is a profound disenfranchisement. The societal norms of the 1950s and 60s routinely stripped women of their autonomy. But for Barbie, the sting is acutely personal.
She is forced to retreat to a small town where her younger sister is the undisputed center of gravity.
Just think about your own family dynamics, or families you know, where one sibling is the designated star. Now imagine being pulled away from your only avenue of independence, only to be forced to sit in the blinding glare of that star's success.
It's the ultimate pressure cooker.
And to add insult to injury, Maxine actually gets to attend a 4-year college, a privilege their father supposedly didn't believe girls deserved.
That specific type of thwarted ambition breeds a generational resentment, and the narrative provides a tangible artifact of that rage.
Yes, the scrap of paper.
Right. While searching Barbie's old room, Kit finds a torn scrap of paper jammed tightly into a drawer. It's in Barbie's handwriting, and it simply reads, "So you don't get to change the..."
So you don't get to change the what?
Yeah.
The will, the narrative,
Yeah.
the past.
You don't know.
It's such a tantalizing fragment. It proves Barbie took a definitive, perhaps unforgivable, stand against Maxine.
But Maxine's sheer magnetism didn't just destabilize her immediate family. It possessed a gravitational pull strong enough to attract an outsider to this isolated Maine town.
And that sets the stage for a tragedy that would freeze the family in time. While going through Maxine's nightstand, Kit uncovers a photograph.
Oh, this part's so good.
It shows her gorgeous aunt sitting on a rock, radiating this profound, undeniable love. Next to it is a photo of a handsome man standing on the steps of one of the sporting cabins.
And when Kit shows the photos to Jeremy Banks, he casually identifies the man as Miles David Easton.
Miles David Easton,
Yeah.
a historically famous, highly acclaimed novelist in the world of this book.
Exactly. Banks explains that Miles came to the camp with a college friend to fish, took one look at Maxine, and essentially never left.
Wow.
He rented Cabin 11 for the entire summer. He wrote his massive breakout book, The Acorn, inside that cabin, and dedicated it, along with every subsequent book he ever wrote, to Maxine.
This instantly reframes Maxine's life. But it also begs the question, if they had this legendary muse-like romance, why didn't they marry? Why is this a secret?
Because the story takes a devastating turn in late 1969. Miles dies in a plane crash.
And the heartbreaking detail. He was actually on his way back to Maine to finally marry Maxine.
That's so tragic.
And furthermore, right around the time of the crash, Cabin 11, the site of their romance and his writing, mysteriously burns to the ground. It is never rebuilt.
Add to that a lingering literary legend that Miles's final unpublished manuscript was supposedly on the plane with him and lost forever in the crash.
The lost manuscript is a classic literary trope, but Stewart uses it here to deepen the mystery of the physical space.
Right, because Banks mentions that Miles' literary agent actually contacted Maxine years later, desperately hunting for any unpublished works.
And we already know Greta Cremens packed up boxes of valuables before Kit arrived. Is it possible that Maxine was hoarding a lost literary masterpiece in a sock drawer for 50 years?
It makes you wonder, did she burn down Cabin 11 herself to hide something, or in a fit of grief?
Whether Maxine possessed the manuscript or not, the critical takeaway is how she responded to the compounding trauma.
Right. In a very short window around 1969, Maxine loses her parents. She loses the love of her life in a horrific crash. She loses her sister to an irreconcilable, bitter feud.
So much loss all at once.
Her response to that total emotional annihilation is to freeze the environment.
She stops time, She never marries?
He literally turns the camp and the Meadows into a mausoleum for 1969. She runs the massive camp completely manually.
It's wild. She outright refuses to install internet or use email. She takes reservations via landline phone and meticulously writes them in a physical ledger right up until the year 2023.
She preserves the last moment she was truly happy and barricades herself inside it.
It makes you wonder how many of us metaphorically freeze parts of ourselves after a major trauma. We stop updating our emotional software.
That's a great way to put it.
But this impulse to hide, to freeze the truth and bury the messiness of the 1960s, is echoing directly into Kit's present day. The family back in Pennsylvania is currently drowning in a modern-day parallel of hidden lives.
Stewart is utilizing dramatic irony to its fullest extent here. We are watching Kit painstakingly exhume the sins of her mother's past, completely oblivious to the fact that her own present reality is built on identical deceptions.
Let's survey the wreckage back home. Abby's husband, Evan, managed to live an entire double life with his stage manager right under Abby's nose.
Just terrible.
Then, over at Beth's cafe, Kit's son Ned is filling in as a cook and uncovers that Beth's trusted longtime employee, Melanie, has been systematically stealing cash from the register.
That one hurts.
Melanie was the very person compassionately telling Beth to go home and rest because of her cancer treatments, all while quietly robbing her blind.
It's the anatomy of an assumption. The characters assume the people closest to them are operating under the same moral framework.
Exactly.
Beth assumes she knew her employee's heart. Abby assumes she knew her husband's fidelity. Kit assumes she knew her mother's history. And now, Kit assumes her husband Russ is just being his typical money-focused self regarding the Maine estate.
Oh man, Russ is throwing up red flags so large they could be seen from space. He is aggressively pushing Kit to agree to an early retirement plan.
And his new hobbies.
Right. He's suddenly fixated on watching European cycling shows. He's constantly texting, taking phone calls outside. And when Kit finally pins him down about his whereabouts one evening, he claims he was meeting up with some biking and hiking friends he met online.
Sure he was.
Friends that Kit had literally never heard of in 3 decades of marriage. And he keeps insisting Kit must be back in Pennsylvania in time for his retirement party because he has a big announcement.
The author is layering these clues to show how willful blindness operates. Kit is so consumed by the anomaly in Maine that she is actively ignoring the anomaly in her own kitchen.
Let me throw an analogy at you, though. Are we as readers projecting too much onto Russ because of the genre?
What do you mean?
Well, maybe the guy's just having a cliche midlife crisis and desperately wants to wear spandex and ride a bicycle up a mountain in France, or is this a bad magic trick?
A magic trick?
You know, the illusionist makes you focus on his right hand, the sudden Maine inheritance, the shiny retirement money, so you were completely distracted while his left hand violently saws the marriage in half.
The magic trick analogy works perfectly because it highlights the deliberate manipulation of attention. Russ is trying to accelerate Kit's processing of the Maine estate because he has a hidden agenda in Pennsylvania.
Oh, absolutely.
He desperately wants the capital from the camp to fund his plans, but he needs Kit distracted and compliant so she doesn't investigate what those plans actually entail until he is standing at a podium ready to drop his announcement.
So poor Kit is trapped in the middle, trying to untangle a 50-year-old deception while a brand new one is actively detonating in her own living room.
Which reinforces the core thematic insight of the novel. The truth is relentless. You can burn down a cabin in 1969, or you can delete a suspicious text message in 2026. But the suppressed reality will eventually demand to be seen. And it usually causes maximum collateral damage when it finally surfaces.
So let's trace the arc of the journey we've explored today. We started in a chaotic, stifling suburban kitchen in Pennsylvania, a space overflowing with 6 sisters, cheating husbands, and stolen cash.
A mess, basically.
To escape that, we followed Kit to a quiet, frozen lake in Maine, complete with a mother moose and her calf wandering through the snowy yard.
Quite the contrast.
Through the physical artifacts left behind, she has uncovered a secret prodigy of an aunt, a tragic, mythic romance with a famous novelist, and a sibling feud so deeply toxic it survived beyond the grave.
And the reason a story like Wake Up Calls resonates so deeply with an audience is because it forces us to examine our own curated family narratives.
It really does.
We accept the polished stories our parents hand down to us because they provide comfort and a sense of order. But the mechanics of this novel reveal that the parts of our family history that are deliberately excised, the raced sisters, the burned-down cabins, the hidden photographs. Those intentional silences are almost always the master keys to understanding who we truly are and the inherited traumas that make our families function the way they do.
The silences are always louder than the stories. Which leaves us with a final, slightly unsettling question for you to mull over.
Oh boy.
Think about the physical artifacts of your own life right now. If a stranger were to pack up your house 50 years from now, if they dug through your nightstand, read your old high school yearbooks, and opened the forgotten boxes in the back of your closet, what completely false, or perhaps dangerously accurate, narrative might they construct about your deepest secret?
Wow.
When that unavoidable X-ray machine of history is finally turned on you, what jagged little lines will it reveal?